dating back to almost 15 plus years. Before anything further is said about what we need to do, it's significant that we recognize today where we stand in terms of technology. But before we go into the three paradigms which Sundar said, it's extremely important to carry out a bare-bones, clean sheet analysis of what happened, why it happened, and what are the pitfalls which need to be avoided. And also take into consideration the current status of technology and whether we can put it to use. Is CSC still going to be relevant? If it is going to be relevant, how we can make it sustainable? I completely agree with Sumanta that we were the first state to take on this experiment, very enthusiastic. But things didn't work out. And if I look at the past, why things did not work out, two or three things, key things come to my mind. The first one being that the back end, which Mr. Satyaprakash spoke about, the willingness and the preparation for back end improvement was minimum at that time when we started. So essentially the entire process was showcasing the front end, and that's why the model did not succeed, because the adequate number of services were not ready to be integrated into the front end to make the CSC or to make the front end attractive, either commercially or viable in terms of its attraction to the citizen. The second aspect was that probably there was an unwillingness on the part of government to put in adequate resources. And it was felt that probably a model which is essentially B2C model can be developed, and some limited services will come through. Some of the things which were essentially not integrated, but they could be delivered in e-mode. So the emphasis was that let the government not spend too much money, because there is going to be enough B2C activity which will make the CSC successful. The third thing which comes to my mind is that the awareness of providing good governance through process improvement was nowhere near what it is today. Having said that, and having seen that unless these critical elements are brought in, it is not easy for anyone to succeed. Let me also say a couple of things from the government's perspective today. Now, CSC is not to be seen, as it appears to me in our experience, to be a B2C delivery. It is essentially a G2C delivery. And ideally speaking, it should be two-way traffic. It should be G2C and C2G. So it has to be an interactive delivery point which enables that the distinction between whether it is possible for the governments to get reformed by merely concentrating on the rights of citizens, or is it inadequate, or is it enough, or is it a good way to go in for what we call the reforms process, where you reform the process and make sure that those grievances which are sought to be redressed by the citizens through a process of rights being given, statutory rights being given, is that correct? It appears to me, out of our experience in the state and my interaction with corporate colleagues, that it is probably a combination. The citizen must have a right for services. But these services, regardless of whether you put statutory right of the citizen or not, cannot be dispensed unless there is a reform to the delivery system which is put in place. The second most important issue is that even if you put the reforms in place, even if accountability is put in place, we must recognize today that for any venture of this type to succeed, the sustainability of the model is essential. There is, my experiences with my colleague, in spite of all the enthusiasm and so on, which the departments exhibited, there still appears to be lack of commitment to bring about a change in the process. Why? Why is it so? It is because it is a very difficult task to be performed. It is something which you are called upon to do outside what shines. Now, it is good to show something which is physical in nature rather than something which is process oriented. So, typically, the interests of the departments to go into nitty-gritty of how this process can be reformed and made more efficient is lacking. Unless this process reform takes place at a speed at which technology can enable into the service delivery, it will become very difficult for us to have a meaningful CSC structure. I am saying this because we identified, we identified the possibility of close to maybe 200+ services which can be delivered, which are G2C services. But ultimately we found that the readiness of the departments to deliver services was just coming to a double digit, say maybe 15, 14. So somebody said, let's be on the safe side. Let's start with 6 services or 7 services. This is not going to work. If the CSC is to be an attractive model, then adequate number of services have to go to the CSC. At the same time, CSC cannot remain a purely G2C model. It has to bring in what the citizen needs. Why should I go to the CSC? If I were to go to the CSC, maybe to get a government service, I have to go there once in a lifetime. If it is a death certificate, or if it is a caste certificate, or it's an income certificate, maybe I need to go just once in a lifetime. That is not going to make it attractive. Where do the volumes come from? Volumes come from certain government transactions which are repetitive in nature, where citizen needs to go there maybe once in a month or at least once in a quarter. It could be payment of bills, it could be some other process which is of repetitive nature. All these processes will need to be brought into the CSC portal. Now, unless you do that, unless there is clarity in the government and a willingness to do it, it will become very difficult to develop a sustainable model. My view is that if it is to be barely a B2C, why should somebody plan a CSC? I mean, B2C is taking place anyway, And it is not stopping, it is not requiring a government intervention. Whether it is the mobile bill payment or it is something else which the private sector is doing, they are going ahead and doing it. The opportunity is that if you have a good CSC model, then there is a possibility of B2C services being integrated, which is not going to be the brand, but it is going to be the butter of the brand. Now, this is how we have to start thinking, that it is a combination of D2C and B2C services which must be brought in. And any reluctance to establish this is going to affect the sustainability of the CSC model. Ideally speaking, if you look around globally, we find that most of these services are now sought to be delivered not through a kiosk form. These are all internet-based. But why CSC continues to be relevant to a country like India is that the penetration of the population, particularly in the rural areas, IT penetration continues to be fairly low. So it is going to remain relevant in foreseeable. The difference which has come about is that mobile devices, particularly the cell phones, they have brought in a revolution. When you talk about technology, the CSC must recognize this ground reality. If you are able to do it, then probably you will be able to integrate the CSC in a manner in which people are actually living today. The third aspect which needs to be deliberated and stop about is that experience showed that we tried to develop static models. We did not go in for something which was comprehensive or global in nature. Probably thinking that one database for individual services could enough. It is not something which is working. Why is it that even after being in the forefront of IT, today India is one of those countries where you can manually steal a vehicle, drive anywhere in the country and not be caught? Why is it that the policing system itself is not working out? This is because we failed to invest in a globalized system attacking a problem. The database which we develop, they don't shake hands with each other. Every time somebody comes, a new concept is started, as if it's good enough to deliver a concept rather than take it to a completion. There is going to be a need to be sensitive to this very important aspect, and I am extremely happy when Veer and his team came to me, showing me a model which I thought was very close to how it should be done. Now, if you are going to ultimately be in a position to deliver services efficiently, there is going to be a need for a delivery which, when the delivery takes place, the database is automatically updated and it becomes current for all other services to be dispensed. For example, if there is a database which is a citizen or resident database, any time there is a change in the status of the resident, it gets reflected once and that's it. Once it is reflected, it is going to affect all the services which various departments are going to deliver. We never thought about it as an important aspect of the delivery. This kind of awareness which is starting coming, this has to be actually very forcefully followed in case we want to succeed in this. Last point I would like to make is that look, the issue is not whether CSC is to be made relevant, whether it is relevant or it is not. The issue is that we have lost too much time. Now, we are in no position to give apology. We are in a position, we are in a situation where accountability is going to force us into efficient delivery services. Therefore, my starting remarks are, let's not start looking at the negative side of what went wrong. Learn from the lessons, move forward, use technology which is possible, and do it fast and quickly. Thank you.